Alan Peterson arrived at the cafe he'd built with his life savings to find the locks changed and the sign gone. $310,000, his entire retirement fund had vanished, along with the woman who'd promised to build a future with him. Standing on that quiet street in Hua Hin, Thailand, staring at the shuttered windows of what was supposed to be their dream cafe, Alan finally understood what he'd been to Mew. Not a partner, not a lover, just a retirement account that happened to have a heartbeat. He was 63 years old, 12,000 miles from home, with $1,100 in his bank account, and no way back. The cafe's menu he'd designed was still saved on his laptop, carefully chosen dishes, pricing calculated down to the last baht, hours of work that meant nothing now. But 6 months earlier, sitting alone in his empty house in Portland, Oregon, watching rain streak down the windows, Alan had no idea any of this was coming. 6 months earlier, he thought moving to Thailand would save him from the quiet desperation that had become his life. He thought he was starting over. Instead, he was walking straight into the most expensive mistake of his life. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. Alan Peterson turned 63 on a rainy Tuesday in February 2024. He celebrated alone in his house in southeast Portland, microwaving a frozen dinner and watching TV. His phone buzzed once a text from his daughter Jennifer saying, "Happy birthday, Dad." His life had become a collection of empty rooms and silent evenings. He'd lived there 3 years, alone since his divorce from Carol. She'd moved to Santa Fe. Their kids, Jennifer in San Diego and Marcus in Austin, rarely called. Alan had worked as a service manager at Benson Toyota for 34 years. At 63, he'd taken early retirement with a lump sum pension of $193,000, plus his 401k of $147,000. After taxes, $290,000. Combined with $165,000 from selling his house, Alan had $455,000, enough to live comfortably for life if careful, or enough to destroy everything if he made wrong choices. Sitting in his empty house that February night, Alan realized he had no one. He had $455,000 and absolutely no one to share it with. He started watching YouTube videos about retiring abroad. Thailand kept appearing, specifically Hua Hin, a quieter beach town south of Bangkok. Peaceful beaches, affordable living, English-speaking community, and videos of older Western men with younger Thai girlfriends finding happiness. Alan told himself the women weren't the draw. But late at night, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: possibility. In March, Alan listed his house. It sold in 2 weeks for $295,000. After fees, he netted $165,000. Jennifer called, worried. "Dad, are you sure? Where will you live?" "Thailand. Hua Hin. Beach town. Simple life. You don't know anyone there. What if something goes wrong? I need to do something different before it's too late." She didn't argue further. He heard the resignation in her voice. On April 7th, 2024, Alan took an Uber to Portland International Airport, 2 suitcases, one-way ticket to Bangkok, $455,000 in bank accounts. The plane lifted off. Portland disappeared beneath clouds. He was terrified and exhilarated. Everything he'd known was behind him. Everything unknown ahead. Bangkok's heat was overwhelming at 10 a.m., 96 degrees with crushing humidity. Alan took a taxi to Hua Hin, a 3-hour drive south, 2,500 baht, $75. Hua Hin appeared gradually along a curved beach, smaller than expected, more manageable. His hotel, the Marrakesh Resort, had a cool lobby and a room overlooking the ocean. He spent his first week exploring, walking the beach at dawn, trying coffee at beachfront cafes, discovering the night market. Everything was cheap meals for $3 to $4. His hotel room, $45. He did the math constantly. Rent an apartment for $600 monthly, spend $600 more on everything else, $15,000 yearly. His $455,000 could last 30 years. But loneliness followed from Portland. He'd watch couples, older foreign men with younger Thai women, and feel that familiar ache. In his second week, he found a 1-bedroom apartment on Swai Muban for 18,000 baht monthly, $540. He signed a 6-month lease and moved in. He established routines, Morning beach walks, coffee at the same beachfront cafe, evenings watching movies on his laptop, simple days that felt empty. The cafe was called Seaside Coffee. One barista stood out, a young woman named Suthita, who called herself Mew, maybe 30, small with long black hair. She had a quiet, gentle presence. She smiled when Alan came in. "Good morning, Mr. Allen," remembering his name after 2 visits. "Call me Al," he'd say. They'd chat briefly about Portland, what brought him to Thailand, whether he enjoyed Hua Hin. Her English was good. She seemed genuinely curious. "You come Thailand alone?" she asked one morning. "Yeah. Divorced. Kids are grown. Just me now." She nodded thoughtfully. "That must be lonely sometimes." "It is, but that's why I came here. Fresh start." He went back every morning for 2 weeks. Each conversation felt like sunlight. The morning that changed, everything started like any other. Alan walked to Seaside Coffee at his usual time, 7:30, when the heat was still manageable and the beach was quiet except for a few early joggers. Mew was behind the counter as always, chatting with an older Thai woman who appeared to be her mother or an aunt. "Morning, Mr. Al," Mew called out when she saw him. "I start your cappuccino." "Thanks, Mew." He took his usual table under an umbrella, opened his laptop to check email from Jennifer, another short message asking how he was settling in, reminding him to be careful with his money, expressing vague worry that everything felt too sudden. He was drafting a response, explaining that he was fine, that Hua Hin was perfect, that he'd made the right choice, when he heard a small gasp behind him. He turned to find Mew standing there with his cappuccino, her face stricken with horror. Hot coffee was spreading across the table, dripping onto his laptop keyboard, soaking into his shirt. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Mew set down the cup, what remained of it, and grabbed napkins, frantically trying to soak up the coffee. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Al. I'm not paying attention. I'm so sorry." Alan jumped up, lifting his laptop and shaking off the coffee. The keyboard was drenched. Coffee dripped from the edges. It's okay," he said, though his heart was pounding. The laptop had all his documents, his banking information, his photos. "It not okay. I ruined your computer." Tears were forming in Mew's eyes. "I pay for fix. Please, I'm so sorry." "Really, it's fine. These things happen." He dabbed at the laptop with napkins, praying it wasn't completely destroyed. The older Thai woman came over, scolding Mew rapid fire in Thai, clearly angry about the accident. Mew kept apologizing, to Alan, to the woman, tears now streaming down her face. "Please," Alan said gently. "It was an accident. Nobody's hurt. Let's just see if the laptop's okay." He dried it as best he could and tried to turn it on. Nothing. The screen stayed black. His stomach dropped, but he kept his face calm. "It'll probably be fine once it dries out," he lied. "Really, don't worry about it." But Mew was devastated. She insisted on giving him his breakfast free, bringing him extra napkins, offering to pay for any repairs. The older woman had disappeared back into the cafe, clearly annoyed but no longer scolding. "I feel terrible," Mew said, sitting across from him. "You come here every day, you so nice, and I do this stupid thing." "Everyone makes mistakes," Alan said. "I've probably spilled 1,000 cups of coffee in my life. But this your computer, your important things. I have backups," he said, another lie. "Everything's backed up. Even if it's broken, I'll just get a new one." She looked at him with such genuine remorse that Alan felt his heart soften. This wasn't some calculated play. She was genuinely upset, genuinely apologetic. It made him like her even more. "Tell you what," he said. "Let me take the laptop home, let it dry out, see if it works. If it doesn't, you can help me find a good repair shop. Deal?" "Deal," she said quietly. "And I give you free coffee until it fixed. Every day. Free." "You don't have to do that. I want to. Please." The laptop never recovered. Alan took it to a repair shop 2 days later, and the technician confirmed what he already knew. The logic board was fried, water damage beyond repair. He'd need a new laptop. The cost would be around 20,000 baht, about $600. When Alan told Mew, she looked horrified. "I pay for new one," she insisted. "I work extra, I save money, I pay you back." "Absolutely not," Alan said. "It was an accident. I'm not taking your money, but I break it. This my fault." "Mew, listen. You work hard. I'm retired with savings. I can afford a new laptop. You can't. Case closed." She looked at him with such gratitude that Alan felt something shift in his chest. This was what had been missing in Portland. Someone who looked at him like he mattered. Someone who appreciated his kindness rather than taking it for granted. "You very kind person," she said softly. "Most customer, they get angry. They yell. They demand money. But you so nice." "Life's too short to get angry over accidents," he said. "Besides, I like coming here. Wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable around me." She smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had drawn him to the cafe in the first place. "I not uncomfortable. I happy you come. Even before this, I always happy when I see you." Something in the way she said it made Alan's heart beat faster. Was she flirting? Was he imagining things? He was 63 years old, and she was 30. But she was looking at him with such openness, such genuine affection. "I'm happy to see you too," he said carefully. Her smile widened. "You want walk on beach after I finish work? Maybe 5 o'clock? I show you good spot. Not many tourists." Alan hesitated for only a moment. "I'd like that." That afternoon, waiting for 5 o'clock to arrive, Alan felt like a teenager preparing for a first date. He changed shirts 3 times. He combed his thinning gray hair. He brushed his teeth twice. He told himself he was being ridiculous, that this was just a friendly walk, that she probably felt obligated after the laptop incident. But when Mew met him at the cafe at 5 o'clock, changed into jean shorts and a simple white tank top, her hair loose around her shoulders, he knew this was more than obligation. "You ready?" she asked, smiling. "Ready," he said. They walked south along the beach, away from the touristy areas, toward a quieter stretch where locals fished and families played in the shallow water. Mew walked close to him, not quite touching, but close enough that he felt the electricity of possibility. They talked easily. She told him about growing up in a small village north of Hua Hin, about moving to town to work and send money home to her family. She'd been working at Seaside Coffee for 3 years. Her dream was to someday have her own cafe, something small and cozy, with good coffee and comfortable seating, a place where people felt at home. "Like how you make me feel at Seaside," Alan said. She looked pleased. "That what I want. Make people feel welcome, feel happy." He told her about Portland, about his 34 years at the dealership, about the divorce and the empty house and the decision to start over somewhere completely different. "That very brave," she said. "Most people too scared to change. They stay in same place even if unhappy." "I spent too many years being scared," Alan said. "I figured 63 was time to stop." They sat on the beach as the sun started to set, turning the ocean orange and gold. Mew sat close enough that their shoulders touched. Alan's heart was pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. "I'm glad you come to Hua Hin," she said quietly. "I'm glad you come to my cafe." "Me too," Alan said. "More than you know." She looked at him then, really looked at him, her dark eyes searching his face, and smiled. "I think maybe Buddha sent you to me." "I'm not very religious," he said. "Not about religion, about fate, about right people meeting at right time." She reached over and took his hand. Her hand was small and warm in his. They sat like that, watching the sunset, not saying anything, just existing together in that perfect moment. Alan felt something he hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. Hope, connection, the possibility that his life could still hold good things, that he could still matter to someone, that starting over wasn't foolish but actually the bravest thing he'd ever done. That night, walking back to his apartment alone, he touched his chest where his heart was still racing and thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what I came here for. Mew and Alan became inseparable over the next 3 weeks. She'd finish work at Seaside Coffee, and they'd spend evenings together walking the beach, eating at local restaurants, sitting at night markets sharing grilled seafood and sticky rice. She introduced him to parts of Hua Hin he'd never have found alone, places where tourists didn't go, where Thai families lived their ordinary lives. Everything felt natural with her, easy. Alan had spent 30 years with Carol, but he couldn't remember it ever feeling this effortless. With Mew, there was no performance, no trying to be someone he wasn't. She seemed to like him exactly as he was, a 63-year-old retired service manager with thinning hair and a slight gut and no particular talents, except kindness and listening. She never asked him for money, never hinted that she expected anything. When he tried to pay for their dinners, she'd fight him for the bill, insisting on splitting costs or covering it herself. "I have job," she'd say firmly. "I can pay. I know you can, he'd say. But I want to. Let me do this. Why you want? Because it makes me happy to take care of you. She'd smile at that, but still insist on paying her share more often than not. It made Alan like her even more. She wasn't with him for his money. She was with him because she actually wanted to be. They had their first real kiss 2 weeks after their sunset walk. They'd gone to a small temple on a hill overlooking Hua Hin, and after praying Mew seriously, Alan just following along respectfully, they sat on the steps watching the city lights come on below. Can I ask you something? Mew said quietly. Anything. You think I too young for you? People see us. They think bad things. Think you buy me. Think I use you. Do you care what people think? She considered this. Little bit, but not enough to stop. Then neither do I. She leaned over and kissed him. Soft and tentative at first, then warmer. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. I think about that for a long time, she said. Every day I think, maybe today I kiss him. You should have done it sooner, Alan said, his heart racing. Worth the wait, she said. They became a couple after that. Not hiding it, not making a big deal of it, just existing together as two people who enjoyed each other's company. Mew would sometimes stay at Alan's apartment after they'd been out late. She'd cook breakfast in his tiny kitchen, making Thai omelets with fish sauce and chilies that were too spicy for him, but he ate anyway because she'd made them. She brought her few belongings over gradually, some clothes, toiletries, a small Buddha statue she placed on a shelf in the living room. She never formally moved in, but within a month, she was spending more nights at his apartment than at her own room behind the cafe. Alan felt happier than he'd been in years, maybe ever. Every morning, waking up next to Mew, feeling her warmth against him, watching her sleep peacefully, these were gifts he'd never expected to receive again. His daughter Jennifer called in June. She'd been texting regularly, but hadn't actually called since he'd left Portland. Dad, she said, I wanted to check in. Really check in. How are you doing? I'm great, Jenny. Really great. You sound different. Happier. I am happier. I met someone. There was a pause. Someone? Like a girlfriend? Yeah. Her name's Mew. She works at a cafe here. She's wonderful, Jenny. Really wonderful. Another pause. Longer this time. How old is she, Dad? Does it matter? It kind of does. Is this one of those situations? One of what situations? Dad, you know what I mean. An older American man, a young Thai woman. Everyone knows how those relationships work. You don't know anything about our relationship, Alan said, anger rising. You haven't met her. You don't know what we have. I'm just worried about you. About your money. You have everything you've saved. My money is fine. Mew doesn't care about my money. She pays for herself most of the time. She's with me because she wants to be. Okay, Jennifer said, not sounding convinced. I'm glad you're happy. Just be careful, okay? Please? After he hung up, Alan felt angry and defensive, and also vaguely ashamed, because Jennifer had voiced the doubt he sometimes felt late at night, the doubt that said this couldn't possibly be real, that a beautiful 30-year-old woman couldn't genuinely want to be with a 63-year-old retired service manager unless there was some hidden transaction happening. But then Mew would smile at him, or take his hand, or tell him about her day, and the doubt would evaporate. This was real. What they had was real. One evening in late June, sitting on his apartment balcony drinking Leo beer and watching the street below, Mew brought up her dream again. You remember I tell you I want own cafe someday? I remember. I think about it all the time. What it look like, what it serve, the feeling it have. I see it so clear in my mind. You should do it, Alan said. You'd be amazing at running your own place. She laughed softly. Need money for that. Lot of money. How much? Too much. Maybe 800,000 baht for good location rent, first year. Maybe 1 million for equipment, furniture, renovation. Maybe 500,000 for licenses, permits, everything legal. Too much for me. Maybe in 10 years, if I save everything. 2.3 million baht. About $69,000. A lot of money, but not impossible. Not for someone with $455,000 in the bank. What if we did it together? Alan said. She turned to look at him, confused. What you mean? What if I invested? We'd be partners. You'd run it. You know coffee, you know service. You have the vision. I'd handle finances, help with planning, support however I can. We'd build it together. Her eyes went wide. Al, you serious? Completely serious. You're talented. You have a clear idea of what you want, and I have money just sitting in a bank doing nothing. Why not use it to build something with you?" Tears started streaming down her face. "Nobody ever believe in me like this. Nobody ever want help me. I believe in you completely," he said. "And I want to help." She threw her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder. "You best thing happened to me. Best person I ever meet." That night, lying in bed with Mew asleep next to him, Alan felt certain he'd made the right decision. This wasn't some scam. This was a partnership with someone he loved, building something real together, investing in their shared future. What could possibly go wrong? They started looking for cafe spaces the following week. After looking at 24 places, they found one on Soy Bintabad, a corner unit, raw space with concrete floors. Mew loved it immediately. The landlord wanted a 1-year lease up front, plus 2 months deposit 490,000 baht, $14,700. Alan negotiated down to 420,000, $12,600. The lease went in Mew's name. His lawyer, Colin, a British expat, advised, "Can't own a business as a foreigner. Put it in her name, but get a partnership agreement." Alan paid Colin $90 to draft an agreement, stating he owned 50% of the business. Mew signed without hesitation. Everything felt protected. Renovation costs: 750,000 baht, $22,500. Equipment including an espresso machine, 380,000 baht, $11,400. Furniture: 190,000 baht, $5,700. Then permits and licenses. Mew's uncle Sumchai, maybe 55, well-dressed, professional, offered to handle the bureaucracy. Thai system very complicated for foreigner, Sumchai explained. "I handle everything, all legal." His fee, 250,000 baht, $7,500. Alan transferred the money. By August, Alan had invested $62,790 total. The cafe was taking shape beautifully. The walls were painted a warm cream color. The floor was polished concrete. The counter was dark wood with a gleaming espresso machine. Tables and chairs filled the space with cozy seating for 20 people. Artwork Thai paintings mixed with coffee-themed prints decorated the walls. Mew was radiant during this time. She'd spend hours at the cafe supervising work, choosing last details, practicing with the espresso machine. She'd come home exhausted and happy, falling asleep in Alan's arms while telling him her plans for the menu, the pricing, the marketing. Alan felt proud watching the cafe come together. This was real. This was something tangible they were building. He'd worked 34 years managing other people's businesses. Now, at 63, he was building his own with a woman he loved, in a place that felt like paradise. Jennifer called in early September. She'd been texting occasionally but hadn't called since their tense conversation in June. "Dad, I'm worried about you." "I'm fine, Jenny. Better than fine. You keep saying that, but you've been out there 6 months. You haven't come to visit. You barely call. And now you're opening some cafe? Mew and I are opening it together. It's going really well. How much have you invested?" "That's not your concern." "Dad, it absolutely is my concern. That's your retirement money. Everything you saved for your future. I'm investing it in my future. Our future. Mew's and mine. Have you heard yourself? You've known this woman for what, 4 months? And you're putting your life savings into some business in Thailand that you don't know how to run? Mew knows how to run it. She's worked in coffee for years. She knows exactly what she's doing." "Dad, please listen to me. I've been reading about these scams. Western men meeting Thai women, falling in love, investing in businesses that don't exist or disappear overnight. You need to be careful." "You don't know what you're talking about," Alan said, anger rising. "You don't know Mew. You don't know our situation. You're just assuming the worst because she's Thai and I'm American. I'm assuming the worst because I love you and I don't want to see you hurt. I'm not going to get hurt. Mew loves me. We're building something together. End of discussion." He hung up before she could respond. That night, lying in bed, doubt crept in again. Was he being foolish? Was Jennifer right? Had he invested too much too quickly? But then Mew curled against him, half asleep, and murmured, "Thank you for believing in me, Al. I make you proud. I promise." And the doubt evaporated. This was real. What they had was real. The cafe was scheduled to open October 1st. They spent the last 2 weeks of September preparing. Mew hired 2 Thai girls to help Noi and Ploy, both in their early 20s, both with cafe experience. Alan helped create the menu, choosing drinks and pastries, calculating prices to be competitive but profitable. He designed a simple website on his new laptop. He created social media accounts. He made flyers to distribute in hotels and expat hangouts. He felt useful, important, part of something meaningful. They did a soft opening September 28th, invited friends, expats, local business owners. The place was packed. The coffee was excellent. People were taking photos, posting on social media, promising to return. "This is it," Mew said, squeezing Alan's hand. "This is our dream coming true." Alan looked around the cafe they'd built together, the warm lighting, the comfortable seating, the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of people laughing and talking, and felt complete satisfaction. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd saved, everything he'd invested, it was all worth it for this moment. He had no idea how quickly it would all collapse. The cafe opened officially on October 1st, to modest success. They had a steady stream of customers, mostly expats, some tourists, a few locals who'd heard about the new place. Not packed, but respectable for a new business. Mew worked the counter with her usual warmth. Noi and Ploy handled food prep and cleaning. Alan managed the business side, tracking expenses, deposits, social media, customer feedback. They were barely breaking even. Revenue covered daily operating costs, but hadn't yet started paying back the investment. Mew said this was normal. New businesses took time to build a customer base, to develop a reputation, to become profitable. "We need be patient," she said. "Give it 3 months, maybe 6. Then we see real profit." Alan believed her. Business took time. He'd worked long enough to know that, but problems started appearing. Small problems at first, easy to dismiss. The espresso machine broke in week 2. Repairs cost 18,000 baht, about $540. Alan paid it. The landlord claimed the renovation had damaged some pipes that needed fixing before they'd violate the lease. Another 25,000 baht, $750. Alan paid that too. Somchai appeared regularly with new required permits and fees. Each visit cost another 10 or 20,000 baht, $300 to $600. Alan started questioning these expenses. "Why do we need this permit? We already have the business license." "This different permit," Somchai explained patiently. "For outdoor seating, separate from inside business. Thai law very complicated. But we don't have outdoor seating. But you want someday, yes? Better get permit now while processing fast." It didn't quite make sense, but Alan didn't know Thai law. Maybe Somchai was right. Maybe this was how things worked here. Money flowed out faster than it came in. By late October, Alan had invested another $28,000 beyond the initial $63,000, bringing his total to $90,800. Mew was always stressed now, always on her phone, texting frantically, her face tight with worry. When Alan asked what was wrong, she'd say business stress, supplier problems, family issues back home. "My mother's sick," she'd say. "Need medicine. I send money." "How much do you need?" "No, I handle. You already do so much." But he'd send her 10,000 baht anyway, $300, because he wanted to help, wanted to be the kind of partner who supported his partner through difficulties. The cafe's numbers weren't adding up. Revenue seemed lower than the actual traffic suggested. Alan started tracking more carefully, comparing sales receipts to bank deposits. Money was disappearing somewhere. "Mew, can we go over the books together? I'm seeing some discrepancies." "What discrepancies?" "The receipts show we made about 40,000 baht last week, but only 32,000 was deposited. Where did the other 8,000 go?" She looked annoyed. "Expenses, supplies, daily things. I keep receipts, but so many small things, hard to track everything." "But 8,000 baht is $240. That's not small. You not trust me now? You think I steal from our business?" "No. I'm just trying to understand. I work every day. I make good coffee. I serve customers. I handle everything. And you just complain about money, like every Farang. Just complain." And Alan would apologize and drop it, because making her angry felt worse than losing track of a few thousand baht here and there. By early November, customer traffic had dropped. The initial excitement of a new place was fading. They weren't getting repeat customers at the rate they needed. Online reviews were mixed. Some praised the coffee and atmosphere. Others complained about slow service or high prices. "We need marketing," Mew said. "Professional marketing. Get more customers." She'd found a marketing agency that would handle social media, create promotional content, run advertisements, cost? 80,000 baht, $2,400. That seems expensive, Alan said. Need spend money, make money. You know this. He transferred the money. The marketing agency produced some slick Instagram posts and Facebook ads that generated likes but not customers. Revenue continued dropping. By mid-November, the cafe was losing money daily. They were barely covering rent and utilities, definitely not covering loan repayment or producing profit. Alan had burned through another $42,000 in November alone. His total investment, $132,800. His remaining savings, $322,200. Still comfortable, but the rate of spending was terrifying. They were hemorrhaging money with no clear path to profitability. We need to make changes, Alan said. Cut costs, maybe. Lower prices to attract more customers. Something. I know what I doing, Mew snapped. You just money. I actual business person. They fought more now. About money, about the cafe's direction, about her being on her phone constantly, about why she was so defensive whenever he asked questions. This supposed to be partnership, Alan said during one argument. But you shut me out of every decision. You get angry every time I ask about finances, because you not trust me. Every day you ask questions. Where money go? Why this costs so much? Like your employee, not your partner. I'm not treating you like an employee. I'm trying to understand our business. Your business. This your business now? That's not what I meant. You think because you have money, you own everything. You own me. Like every Farang who come Thailand think money, buy everything. She'd storm out, and Alan would be left alone in the apartment they'd shared, wondering how everything had become so complicated, how the woman who'd seemed so perfect had become so angry and distant. But she'd always come back. Sometimes hours later, sometimes the next day. She'd apologize, cry, say the stress was overwhelming her, that she was scared the business would fail, that she couldn't handle disappointing him after he'd believed in her. And Alan would forgive her because he loved her, and because admitting the relationship was failing felt worse than accepting things were just going through a rough patch. By early December, customers had dwindled to a trickle. Some days they'd have 5 customers total. Revenue wasn't even covering daily operating costs anymore. We need clothes for renovation, Mew said. Rebrand. Make new look. Get customers excited again. We can't afford renovation. We're already losing money. That's why we need it. Fresh start, new energy. Trust me. She'd found contractors who would renovate for 120,000 baht, $3,600. Alan said no. They argued. She cried and said he'd given up on their dream, on her, on everything they'd built. He transferred the money. The renovation started December 10th. The cafe closed for what Mew said would be maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3. The contractors gutted the space, tearing out fixtures, repainting, installing new lighting. Alan watched his dream being destroyed and rebuilt, throwing good money after bad, hoping Mew was right that this would turn everything around. She suggested he visit Bangkok while the renovation was happening. Too noisy here, too stressful. You go Bangkok few days, relax, come back when almost finished. I should stay and supervise. I handle. You taught me business. I know what doing. You take break. You deserve. Part of him wanted to stay. But another part, the tired, stressed part, wanted escape. Wanted a few days away from the failing business and the tense relationship and the constant worry about money. Okay, he said. Just a few days. He booked a hotel in Bangkok for 3 nights, leaving December 15th. The morning he left, Mew kissed him goodbye at the bus station. I miss you, she said, but you need this. Clear your head. Come back refreshed. I love you, Alan said. Love you too, she said. See you soon. He got on the bus watching her wave, smiling that warm smile that had drawn him to her 7 months earlier. He had no idea he'd never see her again. Alan stayed in Bangkok 3 days. He visited temples, walked along the Chao Phraya River, ate street food in Chinatown, but mostly he sat in his hotel room worrying about money, about the cafe, about his relationship with Mew. He tried calling her multiple times. Her phone rang, but she never answered. He texted her. No response. He told himself she was busy with renovation, that the noise made phone calls difficult, that she'd respond when she had time. But the silence felt wrong, heavy, ominous. On the morning of December 18th, Alan caught the bus back to Hua Hin. 3 hours of growing dread, watching the landscape roll past, touching his phone compulsively to see if Mew had responded. Nothing. He went straight to the cafe from the bus station. The street looked different somehow, quieter, emptier. As he approached the corner unit, his stomach dropped. The cafe sign was gone. The windows were covered with brown paper. The door was locked with a heavy padlock he didn't recognize. Alan pulled out his keys, but none of them fit the new lock. He peered through gaps in the paper covering the windows. The space looked empty, completely empty. No equipment, no furniture, nothing. His hands started shaking. He walked around back to the alley entrance, also locked, also papered over. He called Mew, straight to voicemail. Texted her, no response. He went to his apartment. Same thing, new locks on the door, his keys useless. He pounded on the door, no answer. He called through the mail slot, silence. A Thai woman emerged from the apartment next door, looking at him suspiciously. "Excuse me," Alan said, his voice shaking. "I live here. My girlfriend." "No girlfriend," the woman said in broken English. "She moved out 3 days ago. Take everything. But this is my apartment. I pay rent." The woman shrugged. "Lease in her name. She say she leaving. Take furniture, everything. Gone." Alan stumbled back down the stairs, his legs barely holding him. He sat on the curb outside the building, pulled out his phone with trembling hands, and opened his banking app. His Thai account, $37. His Bank of America account, $112. Everything else was gone. $310,000. Vanished. He scrolled through the transaction history with numb fingers. Transfers to Thai accounts he didn't recognize. Cash withdrawals, international wire transfers, all in the last 3 days while he was in Bangkok. She'd taken everything. The cafe was gone. The apartment was gone. Mew was gone. $310,000. His entire pension, his home sale, his life savings gone. Alan sat on that curb and cried like he hadn't cried since Carol left him. Big, heaving sobs that made passers-by stare and whisper. He didn't care. He had nothing left to care about. He'd spent 34 years building a life, 6 months destroying it, and now he had $149 to his name at 63 years old, 12,000 miles from home, with no way back. Alan called the Hua Hin police from the curb outside his former apartment. He could barely form coherent sentences between sobs. They arrived 30 minutes later, 2 officers who looked unsurprised by his story, as if they heard versions of it weekly. They took him to the cafe, examined the locked door, looked through the windows at the empty space. They took him to the apartment building, spoke with the neighbor in Thai, took notes. Back at the station, filling out a report, one officer explained gently, "This common problem. Foreign man, Thai girlfriend, business investment, girlfriend disappear with money. But we have a partnership agreement," Alan said desperately. "Legal documents showing I invested, showing I own half the business." "Business in her name?" "Yes, but then legally hers. Partnership paper not worth much in Thai court without other evidence." "You give her money freely?" "Yes." "She your girlfriend?" "Yes, but she stole it. She lied to me. She planned this." The officer shrugged sympathetically. "Maybe, but hard to prove. She can say you gave as gift. Say was boyfriend, not business. Thai law very difficult for foreigner in this situation. So there's nothing you can do?" "We try to find her. We contact her family, check addresses, but if she not want to be found," he trailed off. Alan never heard from the police again. He tried finding some Chai. The phone number was disconnected. The address didn't exist. He'd been part of the scam from the beginning, obviously. Probably Mew's boyfriend or brother or partner. The permits he'd filed were probably fake. Alan went to Seaside Coffee where Mew had worked. The older woman he'd seen before, the one who'd scolded Mew about spilling coffee, was behind the counter. "Excuse me," Alan said. "I'm looking for Mew. Suthada. She used to work here?" The woman looked at him blankly. "No Mew work here." "Yes, she did. For 3 years. You were here. I saw you." "No Mew," the woman repeated firmly. "Never work here. But you go now. No Mew here." She turned away, conversation over. Alan stood there, stunned. Had Mew never worked there? Had the whole thing been staged from the beginning? The spilled coffee, the coincidental meetings, all of it? He contacted the expats he'd met: Roger, Colin, the lawyer, others. Some had heard rumors about Mew pulling similar scams on other foreigners. One guy said his friend had lost $80,000 to a woman named Suthita, who matched her description. Another said she'd been seen in Pattaya with a different foreign man. "She's probably done this a dozen times," Roger said grimly. "Works a cafe or bar, targets lonely retirees, plays the sweet innocent girl, convinces them to invest in fake businesses, then disappears. Classic long con." "How did I not see it?" Alan asked. "Because she's good. The good ones are artists. They make you believe every word." The cafe lease had been in Mew's name. She'd stopped paying rent after emptying the space. The landlord, Kun Prassert, contacted Alan demanding back rent 90,000 baht. Alan explained he didn't own the lease, couldn't pay, had been scammed himself. Kun Prassert threatened to sue him anyway. Alan's lawyer, Colin, advised letting him try. "You have no legal obligation," Colin said. "Let him sue. He'll lose. But I'm sorry, mate, the other money is gone. No way to recover it." Alan couldn't afford his apartment anymore. He'd already been locked out anyway. He moved into a guest house on the edge of town, a rundown place where rooms cost 5,000 baht a month, about $150. His room was tiny, a mattress on the floor, a broken fan, a window overlooking an alley filled with trash. He called Jennifer, confessed everything, every dollar lost, every bad decision, every warning sign he'd ignored. She was quiet for a long time after he finished. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry this happened to you. You were right. You tried to warn me. I didn't listen. I wish I'd been wrong." She paused. "I can send you some money. Not much, we're tight with the mortgage and the kids, but I can send $1,000. "I can't take your money, Jenny." "Dad, you don't have a choice. You need to eat. You need to survive until your Social Security starts." "When does that start?" "When I turn 65, 2 years. "Jesus. Okay, I'll send 1,000 now, and I'll send 500 a month until you're 65. It's not much, but it's too much. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. You're my father. I'm not leaving you homeless in Thailand." She sent the money that day. Alan used it to pay 3 months' rent on the guest house room. He had no other choice. He tried finding work. But who hires a 63-year-old foreigner with no work permit, no Thai language skills, no relevant qualifications? He put up flyers offering English tutoring $15 an hour. He got one student, a Thai businessman who wanted conversation practice, who paid for one session and never called back. He did odd jobs when he could find them, helping other expats move furniture, proofreading English documents, anything that paid cash. He made maybe $200 or $300 a month. Combined with Jennifer's 500, it was enough to survive. Barely. Alan Peterson is 64 now. He's been living in the guest house room in Hua Hin for 8 months. The room measures about 8 feet by 10 feet, a mattress on the floor, a broken fan that sometimes works, a window overlooking an alley where stray dogs fight over trash. His possessions fit in a backpack, some clothes, his laptop that survived the coffee spill all those months ago, important documents, the photo album of his kids that he looks at sometimes and feels grief so heavy it's hard to breathe. He's lost weight. His clothes hang loose on his frame. His hair has gone completely gray. He looks older than 64. He looks like exactly what he is, a broken man living in the ruins of his own bad decisions. He tutors English occasionally, $15 an hour. He might get 2 sessions a month if he's lucky. Jennifer still sends $500 monthly. It's enough for rent and food, rice, eggs, the cheapest vegetables at the market. He's accepted that he'll probably die in Thailand. He can't afford a plane ticket home. Can't afford first and last month's rent anywhere in the US. Can't face the humiliation of showing up on Jennifer's doorstep at 64 with nothing to his name. His Social Security will start when he's 65, about $1,300 a month. 1 more year. If he can survive 1 more year, he'll have income. Not much, but enough to maybe move to a slightly better room, eat slightly better food, exist with slightly more dignity. 1 year feels like forever. He thinks about Mew sometimes, more than he should. He wonders if any of it was real, the conversations at the cafe, the sunset walks, the way she'd looked at him and said Buddha had sent him to her. Was any of it genuine, or was he just a mark from the very beginning? He wants to believe some of it was real, that maybe she did care about him, at least a little, even if the caring wasn't enough to stop her from taking everything. But he knows the truth. He was never Al to her. He was never her boyfriend or partner or the love she'd been waiting for. He was a retirement account with a pulse. And she cashed out. She played the role perfectly. The shy barista who spilled coffee and cried with genuine remorse. The sweet girl who paid her own way and insisted she didn't want his money. The dreamer who shared visions of building something beautiful together. And he believed it all because he was lonely and fragile and desperate to matter to someone. Because after Carol left and his kids drifted away and Portland felt like a tomb, he wanted to believe that life could have a second act, that love could happen again, that starting over at 63 wasn't foolish but brave. The police never found Mew. Colin the lawyer heard rumors she'd gone to Phuket, then maybe Singapore with a British man who'd bought her a restaurant. Maybe it's true. Maybe she's building a life on his money and other men's money, moving from target to target, perfecting her craft. He hopes she's happy, in a strange way. Better that the money went to her building something than just disappearing into nothing. His kids call occasionally, Jennifer weekly, asking if he's eating enough, if he's safe, if he needs anything beyond the monthly $500 she can barely afford. Marcus called once after Jennifer told him everything. He said he was sorry. He said he wished he could help. He couldn't. Carol sent him an email when she heard what happened. Kind words about how sorry she was, how she hoped he'd land on his feet, how she was there if he needed to talk. He never responded. What could he possibly say? Alan doesn't blame Thailand. This country didn't do this to him. Mew didn't even do it entirely. He participated in his own destruction. He ignored warning signs. He dismissed his daughter's concerns. He chose to believe fantasy over reality because reality was too painful. That's the real lesson. Not that Thailand is dangerous, or that all Thai women are scammers, or that age gap relationships always fail. The lesson is simpler and harder. Loneliness makes you stupid. Fragility makes you blind. And some people can smell vulnerability the way predators smell blood. He was vulnerable. Mew smelled it. She played the role he needed her to play. Sweet, genuine, uninterested in money, dreaming of simple love and shared futures until there was nothing left to take. He didn't just lose his money. He lost the last part of himself that believed in new beginnings. He lost the hope that life could be good after loss. He lost the story he thought his life would end with: redemption, second chances, happiness found in unexpected places. Instead, he's a 64-year-old man living in a 10-by-8 room, surviving on his daughter's charity and occasional English tutoring, waiting for Social Security to start so he can afford slightly better poverty. He wasn't chasing youth when he moved to Thailand. He was chasing hope, and Mew knew it. She knew exactly what he needed to believe, and she played that role flawlessly until the account was empty. That's the truth he lives with, every day in his tiny room. The truth that keeps him awake, despite exhaustion, that makes food taste like ash, that turns every sunrise into a reminder that he has to survive another day of this. He made bad choices. He ignored warnings. He believed what he wanted to believe, and now he's paying the price. His Social Security starts in 11 months. 11 more months of rice and eggs and tutoring sessions that don't materialize, and nights alone in a room that smells like mold and defeat. If he can make it 11 more months, maybe life gets slightly less unbearable. Maybe. The sun is setting over Hua Hin. The guest house is quiet. In a few hours, he'll lie down on his mattress on the floor and try to sleep despite the heat and the sounds from the alley and the weight of everything he's lost. And tomorrow he'll wake up and survive another day, because that's all there is left to do. Survive. That's Alan Peterson's story. A cautionary tale written in broken dreams and empty bank accounts. A reminder that starting over isn't always brave sometimes. It's just the first step toward losing everything. He hopes your story ends better than his.